Hi, folks. Welcome back to Curtis Goes Corner. Washington Times. Trump plotting his ultimate revenge, getting the last laugh in 2024. Oh, well, that would be sweet. But let's read on. President Trump, despite publicly declaring he won the November 3rd election, is privately telling people he plans on running again for president in 2024, the Washington Times has learned. Of course he has. Before we continue on, I want to thank all my new subscribers, and I really appreciate it. I'm a new podcast, and it's really tough getting started in a little tiny fish in a big, giant ocean, but I appreciate it, and those of you that haven't subscribed, I appreciate you would. I'm not going to ask anybody for money, just your support. Subscriptions get me over 1,000. I'll be able to buy some decent equipment and do a lot better podcasts in the future. So just subscribe and like, and share this video. I'd appreciate it. So enough of my self-promoting. Let's get back to the story. This prospect of Mr. Trump mounting a post-loss comeback is already freezing out all the Republicans with eyes on the White House. Well, of course. Making them pit between fealty to the president and their own political aspirations. It also creates an instant complication for Republican leaders in Congress who have to worry about crossing Mr. Trump while trying to thwart a Democratic president. If the Republicans keep control of the Senate, I call that the firewall. For those of us, I think they had the resistance and all that other crap. Just ridiculous. I think we are the firewall, actually. Those of us that are going to stand firm for the next 2 years. Even if the president manages to pull the inside straight again in a legal challenge, but even still, we're still going to be the firewall. Even out of office, it seems Mr. Trump can sow chaos in American politics. Well, it's already chaotic already. Look at this nonsense. I mean, look what's going on here. These COVID is a screen. I don't even want to get into it. Let's get on with the story. A Republican strategist with close ties to the White House said rumblings of a Trump 2024 are no joke, or the kind of offhand comment that Mr. Trump often makes. He is definitely telling people this in a serious manner, the strategist said. Now, at the end of the day, even in his head, he doesn't want to run, we won't know until he pulls the trigger after a couple of years, the strategist said. Well, of course. He's going to milk it. Even if he doesn't want to run, he's going to milk it to the very, very end. Well, of course he will. You used your influence to your party's political advantage. The guy knows how to get media attention. It is probably his greatest talent. Well, because it got to be originally that the media was Lucy and the Trump administration was Charlie Brown. And now it's reversed. To tell you the truth, Trump's Lucy and the media's Charlie Brown. I promise, just swipe at the football again. I promise I'll let you kick it. It's gonna be if one thing is gonna be fun. I consider Joe Biden looks like he'll probably get through. He'll be a lame duck president the day he's sworn in. Frankly, it'd be very much like Jimmy Carter, who I think was probably the best man in my lifetime that was ever president, but he was a lousy president. So being a good person and being a good man, is that important? You betcha. Does it matter for doing the job of the presidency? Would it be nice if you were a decent person and a good man? Yeah. But in the end, it's all about the job. It's all about what you do for the American people. Patrick Griffin, a Republican Party consultant, predicted there would be no such thing as a post-presidency for Donald Trump, and that mega rallies will go on. The only difference will be Trump plane instead of Air Force One. Those of you go do some checking here. I'm not going to mention the main search engine in the world, but pick the search engine of your choice and look up the Andrew Jackson, John Quincy Adams debacle. And you'll see there are a ton of parallels between Donald Trump and Andrew Jackson. A ton. It's a little eerie. Mr. Griffin said Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Kentucky Republican, and Mr. Biden should be prepared for Mr. Trump to take credit for electoral wins, economic gains, and corona vaccine advances. Well, he should take it for the advances. He should. And shower others would blame when things go south. Well, that's what, in all fairness, if you're going to take credit for a sunny day, you got to take credit for a hit for the rainy day. I mean, you can't, they want to one-sided for so long with Trump in office, and they're getting used to that. The mainstream media and the progressives and leftists, they're going to see what it's really like now. All right, Trump's gone. You got the Oval Office. Now what? It's like the dog caught the car. They chased the car. They caught the car. Now, like, what do I do now? Let's assume the Republicans keep the Senate. He will say, I won the Senate seats. Mitch McConnell owes me so much, Mr. Griffin said. Poor Mitch McConnell. Every time he turns around, Trump is going to check his story. And poor Joe Biden. I'm sure Mitch will manage. He's a sharp guy. It's Joe Biden is going to be screwed. Oh, God. This is like a bad episode of Scandal. The Trump campaign did not respond to requests for comment. Yeah, no kidding. Only once before as a president, Grover Cleveland served the term, lost re-election, and then ran and won 4 years later in 1892, and seating the same man who had defeated him. You're right. Jackson was never, when he was put out in that bargain that was made with a congressman from John Quincy Adams, he didn't win the first time. But there's similarities. In Grover Cleveland, that is true. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to remember one U.S. president ended up being a justice on the Supreme Court. I think it was Taft. In recent years, most presidents have either gone quietly into retirement or assumed the role of elder statesmen in their post-White House years. Former President George W. Bush took up painting, and former Bill Clinton started his global foundation. That's not retirement. The Clinton Foundation was set up to funnel money to get Hillary Clinton the presidency. So let's cut through the crap. Though he kept a hand in politics through his wife. I like that, kept a hand in. Former President Barack Obama has been more active than most others. He has become deeply involved in electoral politics and offering biting criticism of his successor, Mr. Trump. A former president actively seeking to return to the White House would go beyond any of that. Donald Trump is not exactly going to follow Jimmy Carter, who is out building homes with Habitat for Humanity after leaving the White House, Mr. Griffin said. This is going to be the worst leader in exile the world has ever seen. I'm not so sure about that. Mr. Trump telegraphed as much last week when he endorsed Republican Chair nominee Rhonda McDaniel to serve another term after tapping her for the job in 2017. This move is widely viewed as an insurance policy for Mr. Trump to keep a loyalist at the helm of the party. How's Mr. Trump going to keep with the Republican Party? The rallies, the primaries. The primary totals will be overwhelming for him. It'll be a joke. It'll be an absolute joke. There won't be 16, 15, 14 of them like last time. Mr. Trump has so far refused to concede to Mr. Biden, claiming widespread voter fraud. His legal team is struggling to prove that in court. We'll see how it goes. But this is about Trump in 2024. I'm going to intervene here. When they had 4 years of, I'd never seen such hatred towards the president before. And now they got what they wanted. Be careful what you wish for, folks. You may well get it. And that's the old saying. A lot of Republicans agree with Mr. Trump's push. According to the Riker Epsos poll released Wednesday, the poll found roughly half the Republicans think Mr. Trump rightfully won the election on the belief that state vote counters put their thumbs on the scale for Mr. Biden. I agree. How they did it, it was a brilliant strategy, but we'll talk about that some other time. Mr. Trump's refusal to concede may be a loyalty test. Most Republican office holders in Washington, including some potential presidential opponents, say he should be given room to make his case. One exception is Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. Now, you have a GOP governor in Maryland. You think he's a conservative? Oh, Lord. There's only an R. It must have been a typo when they put the R in front of his name. Larry Hogan has said this week that Trump should concede. He coupled that with severe critique of the president as ineffective over the last 4 years. Oh, Lord. All the Republicans thought to be considering presidential runners include Vice President Mike Pence, Charlie Baker of Massachusetts, Nikki Haley, Ted Cruz, Ben Sasse, and Tom Cotton, and Joseph Hawley. There's a couple of good names in there. Mr. Cotton offered a preview during a recent appearance on Fox News how a 2024 Opals could navigate the state of play. He declined to say whether he was planning to seek Republican presidential nomination and praised Trump for changing a lot of Republican orthodoxy and bringing millions of new voters to our party. Let me say about Donald Trump's influence on our party. We did not win control of the Senate. We did not gain seats in the House. We did not pick up legislators in spite of Donald Trump, Mr. Cotton said. We won because of Donald Trump. I agree. It's like, for those of you that are younger don't know the movie Internet Network. The newscaster, he ends up losing a little bit in the end, but he says, everybody scream out their window right now during this broadcast. I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. And Trump pushed on that theme, basically. It worked brilliantly. Mr. Cotton said he was waiting for the latest election to end before he starts thinking 4 years down the road. Good answer. Mrs. Haley has taken a similar approach. She is steering clear of calling Mr. Trump to concede while praising his supporters, celebrating the wins of Republican women, and attacking the far left of the Democrat Party. Mr. Hogan has taken a different tack by aggressively pursuing the anti-Trump mantle. Yeah, he's a GOP governor in Maryland. Give me a break. What an oxymoron that is. The president did an excellent job reaching the common average working person that I was talking about, then turned off younger voters, suburban women, and every other demographic, whereas Reagan was able to put them together, Mr. Hogan said in remarks at the Ronald Reagan Foundation. What the hell is this guy even talking at the Ronald Reagan Foundation for? Good Lord. Others say the Reagan comparison is warranted. Trump ignited the biggest fire in the working class wing since Ronald Reagan with America First buzz phrases and by punching hard, said Brett Doster, a Florida-based Republican Party consultant. Donald Trump will destroy anyone in a GOP contest in 24. Mr. Doster said Mr. Trump's success will depend less on other Republicans interested in running in 24 than it does on how Mr. Biden handles the economy, military spending, and taxes. If Biden is tested by Russia and China, and if the economy free falls, Trump will take the nomination without even leaving Mar-a-Lago, and he'll be invited back to Washington. Not for the Oval Office, but for a throne. Well, that's a little hyperbolic, but it's true. You guys caught the car. You're the dog chasing the car. You caught it. If you were smart, instead of like most progressives and leftists think, just about tomorrow or the next day or next month, you don't do any long-range planning. You're very good at organizing. You're very good at knocking on doors. You're very good at drumming up votes from God knows where, and we'll leave it at that. You're very good at that kind of stuff, but you're not very good at long-term strategy. Tactics, yes. Strategy, no. I'm a chess player. There's a huge difference between tactics and strategy. Now we turn to strategy changes. You should have let him win. You shouldn't have pressed so hard. You just couldn't resist the COVID-19 pandemic was something you just couldn't resist. And you had to get him out at all costs. And what it's going to cost you, the Democrats, is going to cost you your party, at least for the next generation. And if Mr. Trump is put out, if he doesn't pull the inside straight, he will be a force in 4 years. Be careful what you wish for, progressives, because you may well get it. And there's my opinion there, folks, and I appreciate all of you listening. And until next time, goodbye and good luck.